when you think of an economic boom, you probably, picture massive cranes or city skylines transforming overnight.
Right, the traditional stuff.
Yeah,
Headlines screaming about new glass skyscrapers.
exactly. That is the highly visible footprint of wealth moving into a city. But today, well, we are taking you inside a very different kind of economic boom.
One that is almost entirely invisible to the naked eye.
Yeah. We're unpacking a highly specific expert market guide from luxury real estate specialist Cara Conde. It was published in May 2026, and our mission for this deep dive: to dissect the exact anatomy of a modern luxury real estate market.
And figure out exactly how the ultra-wealthy are, quietly moving massive amounts of capital into the American Midwest.
Right, and the focus of this entire guide is actually a single suburb, Zionsville, Indiana.
Which really serves as the perfect microcosm for this conversation. I mean, by isolating this one geographical point in 2026, we get a front row seat to massive shifts in regional economies.
Yeah, we aren't just looking at the square footage of beautiful houses here.
No, not at all. We are mapping the psychological profile of the modern luxury buyer. We're looking at what people actually prioritize when they decide to, pull millions of dollars out of one market and put down roots in another.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the baseline data in this May 2026 report is, well, it's startling if you aren't familiar with this specific pocket of the country.
It really is.
So Zionsville sits in central Indiana, and the guide points out that the average home value has hit $680,117.
Which represents a 6.3% year-over-year increase.
Right. But, the average doesn't tell the whole story, does it?
Never does.
When you look at the premium pockets, the true luxury neighborhoods, the median sits between $755,000 and well over $800,000.
And the detail that really jumps off the page is the appreciation forecast.
Yes.
Yeah.
A staggering 6 to 11% in select submarkets.
An 11% forecasted appreciation in an established Midwestern suburb. That requires a highly specific set of economic engines firing simultaneously.
Right. It's not happening by accident.
Exactly. To understand that engine, you have to look at the regional geography. The guide refers to central Indiana's luxury triangle, which is made up of Zionsville, Carmel, and Geist.
Okay.
But Zionsville is currently standing out as the premier luxury choice within that triangle, mainly because it possesses a very rare structural duality.
Duality is the perfect way to frame it, actually. Because on one side, you have the Village and Historic District. It's exactly what you picture when you hear the phrase small town charm.
Brick-paved streets, local boutique shops.
Yeah, heavy community engagement, extreme walkability. But the anomaly is that literally minutes away from that dense walkable center, you transition into serene, sprawling acreage estates. It's not just a vast grid of subdivisions. It's a carefully balanced ecosystem. And when you factor in the practical logistics like top-tier Boone County schools, incredibly low crime, and a, 20 to 25-minute commute to major downtown Indianapolis employers.
Like Eli Lilly and Roche.
Exactly. You really start to see the appeal.
What's fascinating here is how this specific layout completely redefines the concept of modern luxury. If you rewind the clock 20 years, true luxury was synonymous with isolation.
Oh, yeah. The biggest house on the highest hill.
Exactly. The ultimate flex was buying a massive estate miles away from the general public, gated compound.
Right.
But the 2026 luxury buyer fundamentally rejects that isolation. They demand a much more complex lifestyle.
They want it all, basically.
Pretty much. They want the profound privacy of a multi-acre estate when they're at home, but they also want to outsource their need for community.
So they want to sit in total seclusion in the morning and then, walk down a historic brick-paved street to grab a coffee surrounded by neighbors in the afternoon. But, and I have to push back here a little bit, every wealthy suburb from here to Dallas claims to have that small town charm.
Right.
It's standard marketing copy at this point.
Sure.
So what makes the actual DNA of Zionsville different? If I'm relocating my family and I have a massive budget, what is preventing me from just picking any wealthy suburb with a nice main street?
Well, the difference lies in the deliberate curation of its microeconomies.
Yeah.
You can't just treat a premium suburb as a single monolith anymore.
Okay.
The Cara Conde guide emphasizes a really critical philosophy for the 2026 market. The right neighborhood is just as important as the right house. Real estate at this tier is entirely lifestyle-driven.
And Zionsville has managed to avoid the trap of homogenization.
Exactly. Instead of tearing everything down to build uniform mega mansions, they have preserved distinct flavors of luxury.
So it's essentially a highly curated tasting menu for the wealthy.
That's a great way to put it.
The guide breaks down 4 primary profiles, and it's fascinating to see how they segment the buyers. So first, you have the Village and Historic District. The guide notes that historically adjacent properties with modern, high-end updates are commanding massive premium pricing.
Right.
People are happily paying top dollar to shrink their lot size simply because it buys them total walkability and immediate access to community events.
Which points to a demographic that prioritizes a deep, tangible connection to the fabric of a town over raw square footage. They are buying the ambiance of the 19th century, but with the plumbing and wiring of 2026.
Yeah, nobody wants 19th century plumbing.
Definitely not.
Then you flip the script entirely with Holliday Farms. This is the golf community favorite. It's resort-style, highly amenitized living that hits the absolute sweet spot for families and empty nesters.
The psychology behind Holliday Farms is a desire to outsource social friction.
Outsource social friction.
Yeah. The buyers here, they don't want to maintain their own isolated tennis courts or constantly coordinate private social events. They want a neighborhood that essentially functions as a turnkey private country club. They want effortless community.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so flavor number 3 focuses on new construction, Bradley Ridge, and Wild Air. These are master-planned communities offering striking modern farmhouses and contemporary luxury architecture, but heavily paired with acreage.
These developments are really crucial valves for market pressure. They cater to the buyer who just refuses to compromise.
Right, the I want it brand new buyer.
Exactly. They want untouched perfection, the absolute latest architectural trends, but they refuse to sacrifice the privacy of a larger lot to get it.
Which brings us to the final flavor, the Willows, Promontory, and Longbrook. This is the ultimate privacy play. Deep, serene acreage, heavily wooded environments, but geographically, you are still remarkably close to the village. So regardless of what brand of wealthy you happen to be, whether you want walkable history, a bustling private golf resort, cutting-edge contemporary design, or a secluded forest retreat, there is a hyper-specific pocket built exclusively for you.
The town has essentially weaponized urban planning to protect property values.
Oh, weaponized urban planning.
Think about it. By curating these distinct microeconomies, they guarantee that buyers aren't just purchasing drywall and lumber. They are purchasing a highly specific, irreplaceable lifestyle. And that scarcity is the bedrock of their value.
And scarcity dictates the price, always. So let's look at that price tag. The guide states that inventory is incredibly tight in the true luxury segment, the 1 million plus range.
Very tight.
It is a definitive seller's market for turnkey estates. So for the listener trying to visualize this, what does a $1 million to $2 million budget actually secure in this market in 2026?
It secures a massive physical footprint, for starters, and profound technological integration. In this specific range, we are looking at 4,000 to over 6,000 square feet of custom or semi-custom construction.
Sitting on an acre or more of land, usually.
Exactly.
And we aren't just talking about big, echoing, empty rooms here. The guide highlights that these homes feature deep, smart home integration, resort-style pools, and dedicated wellness spaces.
The wellness space detail is fascinating.
It really is. It's no longer just like a treadmill in a basement. We're talking integrated saunas, cold plunges, and fitness centers built into the original floor plans. You are essentially buying a private, self-contained compound.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the scale and the sheer quality of these amenities provide the exact leverage needed for the next major mechanism driving this market.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Cara Conde's guide introduces a concept that completely demystifies that 11% appreciation forecast.
Yeah, the real driver.
The primary fuel for this fire isn't local money. It's a demographic shift of buyers relocating from coastal markets. The guide calls it cost of living arbitrage. There are actually related articles in our source stack with titles like San Francisco to Carmel, Indiana, the smart relocation choice, and moving from California to Indiana in 2026.
Arbitrage is, it's really the defining financial maneuver of the modern real estate landscape.
Explain that for us.
Sure. In traditional finance, arbitrage means taking advantage of a price difference between two identical assets in different markets.
Okay.
In this context, coastal buyers from high-tax, high-congestion areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, or New York They're looking at the massive equity they've trapped in their coastal real estate. They're liquidating it and moving that capital inland.
I want you, the listener, to really run this thought experiment right now. If you are sitting in a high-tax coastal city, think about your current living situation and your mortgage.
Right.
Now imagine taking the exact same amount of money, or perhaps even less, and buying a 6,000 square foot custom estate with a private wellness center surrounded by top-tier public schools with a 25-minute commute to a major tech or pharmaceutical hub.
The math is just deeply asymmetrical. A buyer can sell a very modest, older 1,500 square foot condo in California for $2 million.
$2 million for a condo. Yeah.
They move to Zionsville, deploy that exact same $2 million, and drastically upgrade their standard of living while simultaneously lowering their day-to-day tax burden and their overall cost of living.
So they aren't downgrading to save money.
Not at all. They are utilizing geographical arbitrage to live like royalty. And because this influx of out-of-state wealth is accustomed to vastly higher price floors, they view a $1.8 million asking price for a sprawling estate as an absolute bargain.
Wow.
That psychological disconnect is what creates the immense upward pressure driving the 6 to 11% appreciation.
Wait, okay. If I'm a local Indian executive, say I'm a VP at Roche or Eli Lilly, and I'm trying to upgrade my family's home, I'm terrified by this data.
Watch.
If coastal buyers view the absolute top of my local market as a discount, how does the local economy absorb that pressure without shutting local buyers out completely? How do you even compete against cash flush coastal money in a traditional bidding war?
The short answer is you don't.
You don't.
No, you step off the traditional battlefield entirely. The most successful buyers in this tier don't compete in bidding wars because they never let the property reach a public bidding scenario in the first place.
Which transitions us into the most critical and heavily guarded mechanism of the modern luxury market.
Yeah, this is the big one.
This was the single most shocking piece of data in the entire source stack for me. According to Cara Conde's guide, over 70% of the finest $2 million plus estates in Zionsville and the surrounding luxury triangle transact privately.
Completely off market.
They change hands before they ever populate on public real estate sites like Zillow or Redfin.
70%.
70%. We really need to pause and recognize the magnitude of that figure. It means the vast majority of the ultra-luxury real estate market is operating in a parallel, completely invisible economy.
So if you are an incredibly qualified buyer, sitting on your couch on a Friday night, scrolling through apps looking for a $2.5 million dream house, you are essentially picking through the leftovers.
Pretty much.
You are looking at less than 30% of the actual available inventory. How does a market function when its most valuable assets are hidden? Is there a literal secret server somewhere that only the ultra-rich have the password to?
No secret server. It functions purely on the currency of access and insider networks. At the multi-million-dollar tier, real estate abandons mass marketing and pivots entirely to discrete matchmaking.
Matchmaking.
Right. Think about the psychology of the seller here. If you own a $3 million estate filled with fine art and personal valuables, you absolutely do not want a parade of strangers and looky-loos wandering through your primary residence every Sunday afternoon for an open house.
Oh, definitely not. You prioritize your privacy, and you only want your home exposed to heavily vetted, highly qualified individuals.
You want a bouncer at the door.
Yeah.
So you hire a specialist.
Exactly. You hire a well-connected luxury specialist, and you give them very specific instructions. You say, I am willing to sell, but I refuse to have a sign in my front yard, and I do not want my address published online.
And then what?
The agent then taps into an exclusive peer-to-peer network. They pick up the phone and call a colleague who represents a CEO currently relocating from San Francisco, or they quietly reach out to a local wealth manager who has a client looking for secluded acreage in the Willows.
Wow.
The negotiations happen in private offices, the contracts are signed, and public never even knows the house was available until the deed is recorded months later.
It's an incredible evolution of the speakeasy metaphor. Earlier, I thought of this as just needing to know the bouncer to get in. But it's much deeper than that, isn't it?
It is.
The secrecy isn't just a hurdle. The secrecy is actually a foundational feature of the real estate's value. The buyers and sellers are mutually agreeing that keeping the transaction out of the public eye preserves the exclusivity of the asset.
It preserves the exclusivity, and more importantly, it preserves their leverage. Which is exactly why Cara Conde's strategic playbook for Q2 2026 is built entirely around navigating this velvet rope.
Right. So for buyers, the mandate is clear. Your first priority isn't finding a house. Your first priority is securing access to the off-market network through a specialist. You have to get inside the room.
And once inside, the advice is to move aggressively on turnkey properties because off-market demand is still remarkably high.
And the guide specifically notes that buyers should leverage the stable 6.3% interest rates. Now, that number might sound high to someone who remembers the artificial 3% rates of a few years ago, but stability is a massive weapon, isn't it?
Predictability is the lifeblood of high-level finance. When interest rates are fluctuating wildly week to week, buyers freeze because they can't accurately model their long-term costs.
Right, it's too risky.
Exactly. But in a stable 6.3% rate environment, even if the rate isn't at a historic low, high net worth buyers can confidently calculate their leverage, model their capital deployment, and execute multi-million-dollar moves without fear of a sudden market shift.
And the playbook on the seller side is equally calculated. The guide stresses that sellers must price realistically using current Q2 2026 comps.
Right.
And for anyone outside the real estate industry, comps are comparables, meaning you have to price your home based on what similar houses in your specific microeconomy just sold for, not some aspirational number you dreamed up because you, I don't know, installed a new sauna.
Exactly.
Sellers also need to invest heavily in professional staging, but the most compelling strategy the guide recommends for sellers is utilizing a discreet off-market whisper campaign.
The Whisper campaign is arguably the most sophisticated tool in a luxury agent's arsenal. It's for testing a market without damaging a property's public perception.
Walk me through the actual mechanics of a whisper campaign, because if you aren't officially listing the house, how do you find out if your price is right without accidentally setting a bad comp that haunts the property forever?
Well, you isolate the information. Instead of publishing the home on the multiple listing service for the entire world to see, the agent quietly floats the property details to a highly restricted, curated list of top-tier brokers and high-net-worth clients.
Okay.
They literally whisper the price. The agent might say, look, I have a stunning 5,000-square-foot historic update coming to the village. The seller's looking for $2.2 million. Do you have a client who fits?
So you are manufacturing a sense of extreme exclusivity.
You are manufacturing exclusivity, and you are leveraging human nature. Buyers at this level are highly competitive. When they feel like they're getting first access to a closely guarded secret, it inherently increases their perceived value of the home.
Right. They want to win.
Exactly. They are frequently willing to pay a premium to lock the property down before it goes to the public market, simply to ensure they win. And if the market rejects the $2.2 million whisper price,
what happens?
the seller hasn't accumulated days on market on a public website. They can quietly adjust the strategy without any public stigma attached to the home.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at the anatomy of Zionsville in 2026, we see a market that has actively engineered its own stability.
Absolutely.
It offers the duality of historic walkability and private acreage. It curates highly specific neighborhoods to cater to every flavor of modern wealth. It acts as a massive sponge, eagerly absorbing the cost of living arbitrage flowing inland from the coasts. And it protects the highest tier of its market by conducting 70% of its business behind a velvet rope.
It is a masterclass in behavioral economics, really. It demonstrates exactly how modern buyers define value, not just in terms of architecture, but in terms of community, privacy, and access.
Which is exactly why this deep dive is so vital, even if you are listening to this right now and you aren't currently shopping for a sprawling multi-million-dollar estate.
Right.
Understanding the mechanics of a market like Zionsville gives you an X-ray view of the American economy. It shows you the invisible currents of capital. It reveals how the human desire for space is fundamentally transforming regional hubs. Most importantly, it proves that the most significant economic shifts aren't always the ones generating the loudest headlines.
This raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
A thread we really need to pull on regarding that 70% off-market statistic.
I have a feeling that 70% number is going to haunt a lot of our listeners tonight.
It demands critical thought. I mean, if 70% of the finest, most valuable real estate in a booming microeconomy is trading hands in complete secrecy, navigated through whisper campaigns and private networks entirely out of the public eye, you have to apply that logic outward. How many other major pillars of our daily economy are operating behind that same velvet rope? What other massive shifts in wealth, Opportunity and societal power are occurring right now in a parallel universe that the average person isn't even allowed to see.
Wow, that is a staggering thought to end on. Just because you can't see the skyline changing doesn't mean the foundation isn't shifting right beneath your feet. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 2026 luxury market. Keep looking past the obvious, keep questioning the systems around you, and we will catch you next time.